Hello, everyone. I am finally making a video about curriculum. So, like many of you, I was a previous online ESL teacher for a Chinese company. And when that stopped being a viable source of income, of course, I switched over to the private tutoring, like many of you did. And at that time, which was 9 months ago, which is crazy to think it's already been 9 months, there was not a lot of options for curriculum. Previously, working for the companies, all the curriculum was provided for you. You didn't have to do any planning except for looking through what you're going to teach. But when you're private tutoring, now you are responsible for providing the curriculum. And at that time, there just was not a lot out there because this was brand new to everyone. So I started with just creating my own curriculum, which was fine when I had one or two students. I would make a PowerPoint to go along and create my lesson, and everything was fine. But then once I had more and more students coming over from that company to the private tutoring, it became more and more of a challenge just keeping up with everything. Starting a new platform, the billing, creating the lessons, teaching the lessons, keeping up with scheduling. It was just way too much for me to handle. So, of course, I started looking into curriculum because at that time, about a month in, more people started creating curriculum to help these ESL teachers. But at that time, again, it was still new, so there just wasn't a large amount of lessons in those curriculums. And I was really worried about having enough lessons to keep up with how often I taught. So I waited a little bit and waited. And then I started looking again after a few months had passed, and I tested out almost probably every curriculum option out there. And the one that I finally settled with was Learnaling. So, Learnaling is an online curriculum for ESL teachers, and it is a web based curriculum, which means there's no PowerPoint or PDF or Google Slides that you can download. Everything is on the internet. So, whatever platform you choose to use, you can use any platform Zoom, ClassIn, Koala Go, whatever you want to use, and you would display that through either your browser with screen share or a shared browser within that platform that you're using. And so first of all, let me tell you why I love Learnaling. So like I said, there are many curriculums out there and they're all amazing in their own way. They're all a little different, the graphics are different, the content is different. So it really comes down to your preference, what you're looking for in the curriculum and design. So the thing that I loved about Learnaling was the content. I really liked the content that she had in her lessons. And more importantly, I love how they tied together. So, working for those big online ESL companies, there were always things I hated about the curriculum and the content. There was just so much in a lesson, and the content tied together, the sentences tied together with the vocabulary, but it wasn't always very smooth and didn't flow very well. So sometimes I felt like I was teaching like four different things in one lesson, and it was overwhelming for me sometimes to teach it all and for the students. But with Learnaling, she does such a good job tying everything together from the vocabulary to the sentences to the grammar, even the phonics and sight words. A lot of times they really work together. So the student is using those same words over and over, no matter what part of the lesson that they are on. So it really helps them remember and recall that information because they're using it throughout the lesson, even if it's a different topic or a different part of the lesson, like phonics, reading, anything like that. So I love how it all ties together. The other thing is the graphics. I know that might seem silly to really care about the pictures, but I'm very picky about my graphics. So with Learnaling, the graphics are simple, I would say. They're not crazy over the top, but they're not boring at the same time. She doesn't have over the top animations, which I think could be distracting for some students. But it's not like, oh, this is boring. I don't care. These pictures are lame. I really like the graphics and animations, the little animations that she has. It's interesting, but not over the top. So now let's take a look at her website. So the website for Learnaling is over here. teach.learnaling.com/home is the home page. So first I'm going to go over just what you could find on her website. I'm not going to read everything. I don't want to bore you reading everything when you can go in and read it yourself. And then I'm going to go in and show you some samples of some of the lessons, not the free ones that you can see on her website, but some that are in an actual paid subscription. So let's take a look at her website. So here's her main page. You have just basic information here, and then at the top is the about. So you can learn about the curriculum and about the creator. So her name is Jenny, and she is from the UK, but she has lived in the US and Canada, which is great because I'm not concerned about her using terminology that our students are not going to understand. And she also does a mix of American English and British English, especially with the vocabulary. And I'll show you an example of that and why that's actually a good thing for our students to see both of those. So here we have the about and about the lessons. If you want to take a look at some sample lessons before you even sign up for the free trial, you can do that here. And then the frequently asked questions. Again, I'm not going to go through and read everything, but one of the important parts here, if you wanted to look at the lessons that are available, she's really good at updating this and showing you how many lessons she has created at each level. So, and I will show you that as well. And then you have the community. This is only available for paid members. This is just kind of like Facebook, where you have a place to post. You can ask questions, comments. She posts updates on here. She also does have a Facebook page, and I'll post that link as well in the description, that she also posts updates. Teachers can share ideas, ask questions, and so on. And then we have the dashboard. So here you can see she has 5 levels that she is working on right now. She does plan to add higher levels, but she wants to make sure these levels are completed first, which I appreciate because all of us that are currently using Learnaling are going through these lessons, and we want them to continue because she's not completed them yet. So if she was to stop and then go work on level 6 and 7, all of us are kind of going to be stranded with not enough lessons to teach. So I appreciate that she wants to finish these first before she moves on to those higher levels. So they are going to be available at some point, but not currently after level 5. And then she has some extra resources. I do want to show this because a lot of teachers that are even currently using it forget about these extra resources. So she has some Chinese New Year's lessons that were fantastic. I use those with my students. Christmas lessons. She has some backups. So backups are basically for if there's some crazy issue with Genially or with your browser. She has some PDFs that you can download and use to replace your lesson. It's not meant to be used multiple times. It's more of a one-time thing that if you need it, if you're in a crunch and you really need something and you can't access the browser or Genially, you could use these. So she has some conversation slides, a level 1, a 2, 3, and a 4, 5. And if you click on those, you can look at the lesson and you can download the PDF version of that. So those are just the backups. Good to have a backup just in case, but so far I have not had to use those. And then she has trial lessons that you can use for yourself, just to trial with a student, or to use with a new student to try to decide which level that student needs to be in. And then other useful resources. So we have 2, one for the student and one for the parent. I did send this to all of my parents when I started using Learnaling. I have no idea if they actually looked at it, but it looks nice. It looks professional. You can send the parent the link for this. And it's just an overview for them of what Learnaling is and a breakdown of what they will be doing in those different levels. So it's just a nice thing. It looks professional that the parents can have before you start using Learnaling. Of course, it is in English, so if your parents don't speak any English, they might not find this beneficial. And then the one for the students, this would be if you're using a platform like Koala Go or Remote HQ that has the ability for the student to drag and drop, which most platforms like ClassIn and Zoom do not have that ability. So for using something like ClassIn or Zoom, the teacher is going to interact with the slides using drag and drop. The student would just be able to circle, draw lines, write, etc. So if you're using an interactive platform with students, you could use this to teach them how to click and how to circle. Of course, the platform probably has their own pen, but they can also use the Genially pen here. And of course, how to drag objects if they're using that interactive platform. Otherwise, you, the teacher, would just do it for them. And at first, I was a little disappointed when my students couldn't drag using a platform that doesn't have that capability, but the students still enjoy the lessons. They still enjoy seeing you move the things around, even when they can't do it themselves. And then the links are what you would send to the parent. You would just copy the link address and send it to the parent for them to access that introduction slide for them. All right, so now let's take a look at the actual lessons and what you get with your subscription. So I'm going to go to, you can either choose the dashboard, you can click on the level here, or you can jump to the level here. So these are how her lessons are organized, and I really like it. It's easy to find everything that you need. It's well organized. You have it first organized by unit, and then each unit is organized by lesson. Each unit has a unit overview, which is excellent. I use it for myself before I start a new unit. It lets me see exactly what they'll be learning in that unit. And you can also download this unit overview as a PDF and send it to your parents so they can see what their child will be learning in that unit. So I really like the unit overview. Under the unit overview, you have the lesson, and then you just click Start to access the lesson. And then under the lesson, you will have notes and homework. So the notes are just very quick notes. It's not a long note list, but it just gives you the lesson link. And let me tell you why this lesson link is important. So let's say you're going into your platform and you're doing either the shared browser or you're screen sharing. If you use this lesson link, you don't have to even log into Learnaling. You could just save the link and then, let me go back into it. Oh, here we go. So I would just copy, right click, copy link address, and then in whatever browser I'm using for my lesson, I would just paste the link, and then the lesson opens in full screen in your browser or the browser that you're using with your platform. I like using the lesson link, but keep in mind that link does change so every so often just to protect her curriculum. That way nobody is sharing these links with people that don't have a subscription. So always make sure you're using the most current link that is listed. So I really like that. You don't have to use that link, but you can. And then the homework for the level 1 letters, they are just PDFs that you can send to the student. So here's just an example of letter A homework for writing practice. And I'll show you some homework for the upper levels as well. So let's go back to here. So we have the lessons followed by the notes and homework. She has review lessons in some of her units, like this one is a review. And she has a challenge. All of her units have a final challenge lesson, which is basically an assessment. I really like her assessments. They are fun, they're interesting, and I'm actually going to show you this level 1. It's very cute. So if you do choose to do the lesson from here, you can just choose to make the lesson full screen this way, and it does fill your screen. You could also click on this to go through and scroll through the pages, which makes it easier to find a page if you left off on a certain slide. So here is a challenge lesson. So there's always some type of story that goes along with her challenges. So for this one, they learned some animal names. So in this story, the little girl's dogs, you can see, oh no, they ran away. So she's thinking about her pets, and you have to help her find her pets that are missing. So in the first section, we have to find her dog. So it goes through each part of what they have learned. So with the challenge, it covers everything that they learned in the unit. So I'm going to jump to the reward here. So, do you see a dog? My student really liked this because it's also interactive, even though they're not dragging and dropping anything. So we are looking for the dog. So my student had to find the dog, and then I had him circle, and yay, you found her dog. Thank you. So the challenges are super, super cute. I love doing the challenges with my students. And then it goes into the next section, and then they continue through all of the rewards, finding all the animals, and it's super, super cute. All right, so now let's get out of here. All right, so now let's go to level 2. Oh, let me finish level 1 here. So we have alphabet, of course. Level 1 is beginner. So they're learning letter names and letter sounds. After they learn the letter names and sounds, it goes into colors and let's play. So right now she has 4.5, I would say, units done in level 1. All right, now let's go to level 2. All right, so level 2, same setup. You have the lesson or unit overview, then you have the lesson, and then you have the notes and homework. Starting with level 2, the homework is interactive. So here she will have the lesson link and the homework link. So let's take a look at this homework link. So I'm going to click on that, copy, and this is what you would send to the student. You would just copy and paste the link to the student, and then it looks like the lesson that you do in class. And the student on their tablet or on their computer will be able to interact with the homework. You cannot see what they do, so you just have to ask the parent if they completed the homework, but then they go through, they can and they have to match, so it's a game that they can complete to practice their homework, and then they cannot move on to the next activity until a certain amount of time has passed. And the reason she does that is so they don't just click, 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 click through the end and say they finished it. They actually have to take the time. There it popped up. So it gives them a certain amount of time to complete the activities before they can move on to the next one. She has a lot of word wall games embedded into her homework activities like this one. Keep in mind, every once in a while, there might be a student who has a problem with word wall loading on their tablets or on their computer. I have just one student out of my 10 that word wall just doesn't load. No idea why. It must be her internet, but it just does not load. So, and then at the end of the homework, there will be a number, and that number is basically just for you to know that they went through the entire homework. They tell you what the number is that they solved, which this one is 45. That way you know they completed it. They had to get to the end of the homework in order to see that number. So there's the homework for level 2. And then we have the lessons. We have a family unit, a food unit, my classroom unit, and that is it for level 2 for right now. So one thing I wanted to show in level 2 was one of her reading stories. So I'm going to go to My Body, lesson 3. So like I told you, I really like how everything ties together. So I'm going to show you how everything ties together here. So she has, it's about legs and feet. So we have our vocabulary, which of course we have here. It shows the word legs. They could practice writing. She has always a practice with the vocabulary words of matching one leg, legs, And then she has the word feet here. She sometimes has these little pullouts that are really helpful for little tips. For this one, it's showing how feet is different than other words. We don't say a foot. Or sorry, we do say a foot. We don't say foots. So it's foot and feet. We don't add an S to foot. So those are always helpful when teaching the vocabulary. And then we have more practice, and then a game to match, and a verb. And then we use the word walk, which of course ties into legs and feet. So now I'm going to skip to the phonics. So like I said, phonics can be a little tricky to tie in things, but she does tie in the word leg, of course, because they're learning short E. But obviously the words pet, bed, and hen don't really tie into the vocabulary. But she then ties this phonics into the reading and the vocabulary here. So what animal is it? So here the student is reading the story, but I love how she keeps her stories simple and it's using vocabulary and the phonics from the lesson. So there's not a lot of new words that the student is not familiar with. It is a pet, it sits on a bed, it has 4 legs and 4 feet. It is, and the student gets to guess what it is. So not only are they reading, but it also becomes a game. So the student has to guess what the animal is. It is a cat. It has 2 legs and 2 feet. It has eggs. It has red on its head. It is a hen. And you can see hen was one of the words for their phonics. So she's tying in the phonics with the reading and the vocabulary with legs and feet into the reading as well. It has 8 legs. It has hair on its body. It has a web. It is a spider. And spider might be a new word for the student. So even though they might not be familiar with the word, they are familiar with the animal and with the words in the story. So love, love, love the stories that she has included with her lessons. Now let's skip to level 3. So level 3 starts with clothes. Then we have food, home, and school, and then hobbies. Follows the same pattern. So you have the unit overview, the lesson. This one has notes separate from the preview and homework. So the notes is just, again, where you can find the link. And then the preview and homework is where you find the links to send the students. So this one has a preview. I love that she included previews and homework with her lessons. That was not something she had in the beginning, but then when teachers said they really were looking for previews and homework, she decided to add that. So I love that she added that at a later time, so she's still trying to catch up with all of the lessons. So not all of them have the previews available right now or the homework available, but most of them do. So here she has a preview link. So again, you would just copy that and then send the link, paste it. The student would paste it into their browser, and then it previews what they will be learning in class. So they can listen to the audio, and they could do a little bit of practice with the words that they're learning. And then it shows what they will be learning in class. So it's just a short little preview just to get them ready for the lesson. And then, of course, the homework, just like the one I showed you, it has the link and then the code that the student can tell you to show that they completed their homework. And I wanted to show you in level 3 the vocabulary. So let's take a look at this one. So they're learning about clothes. So most of the lessons begin with a song that you could sing with the student. And then you might have a review, and then you have the vocabulary. Sometimes she has different ways to practice by dragging. Of course, if you're using a platform that's not interactive, the student would just be able to draw a line and you can drag the words, the practice. And then here you can see where she brings in the American versus British English. So of course in America, we call these pants, but in Britain, they call them trousers. And I like that she does this because a lot of our students in China take English classes at school, and a lot of their English classes at school teach British English. Even though they're learning American English from me, might be hearing that British English at school. So this way, they're seeing both forms of that word. That way, if they see them at school, they're not like, no, those aren't trousers, those are pants. They could say, oh, yeah, in America, they're pants, but in Britain, they are called trousers. So I like that she includes both forms of the word there. And then I want to show you some of the phonics, how she ties in the phonics into her lessons. So in this lesson, we have the song, some of the words they're learning, a review of the vocabulary and sentences, talking about summer clothes. So we have shorts, practice, and then we have skirt, and of course the practice. And then I'm going to skip to the phonics. So here they're learning the ert sound. So she always likes to show the sound, how it's made, and the spelling. And then when you drag the word picture pops up. Skirt, dirt, shirt, t-shirt. So obviously dirt has nothing to do really with the clothes that they're learning, but skirt, shirt, and t-shirt do. And then they also learn the or sound for like ort words. So they could drag, looking at the different sounds, shorts, shirt, dirt. So she ties in not only the vocabulary with the sentences, but she also tries to tie in with the phonics as well. So now let's skip ahead to level 4. Same thing, we have the unit overview, the lesson, followed by notes and homework. So in level 4, they begin learning the past tense, which can be difficult for some students, but it's very, very important. And I really like how she introduces the past tense in level 4. I have 2 students doing it right now. So with this one, let's take a look at that grammar that I was just talking about. So let's look at lesson 3. So here they're learning about my school day, but they're using the past tense, which is important because a lot of us start our classes with, what did you do today? And a lot of our students forget to use the past tense. So when they're talking about their day at school, this is really showing them how to talk about their day at school using the past tense. We have a little song, a warm up, we have our new words. So all the words are related to school. Here's that American and British English again for recess versus break. And then we did a review of school subjects that they should already be familiar with. They're learning adjectives, easy and difficult. And then we have the words boring and interesting. And then they're applying the practicing using those words to talk about the subjects. What do you think is easy or difficult? Which subjects are fun, interesting, and boring? And then we're going into the grammar with the past tense. So here they're learning was, were, and did. They're practicing changing the present to the past tense. And then she guides them into using those past tense verbs in sentences. And this is where it's super, super important. A lot of our students know grammar. They can easily change a word to past tense. They can easily answer a question on a test. But are they able to apply those words when speaking in sentences? So this is guiding them into how to use the past tense. The more practice. And then the speaking ties in the vocabulary, it ties in the grammar, and shows them how to use that when you're having a conversation. I really like the dialogue. I always do role play with me and the student. So here I would be the parent, the dad, the student would be the boy, and then we would switch where the student is the dad and I am the little boy. And it uses those past tense words, uses the subjects we talked about. It uses the words difficult and interesting. So everything just really fits and ties together well. And then this is where they get to apply it to themselves, which I think is super, super important. How was your day? How was school today? Did you have math? How was math? And then they're able to use, I kind of guide them in the beginning of how they use those past tense verbs, but then they have to apply the sentences and the verbs and the vocabulary that they learned. How was math? It was interesting. How was PE? It was fun. So it really does a great job of really taking all those little pieces and helping the student put them together to use them in conversation, which of course is what our ultimate goal is with teaching our students English. Can they use it in conversation? So level 4 really is pushing them more and more into that conversation role. And then, of course, level 5 is the highest level that she has for right now. We have a unit about the countryside, about choosing clothes, which is different than the clothes unit in the other level, jobs, travel, and then she is halfway through maps and transportation. So again, same outline. We have the overview, the lesson, and the notes. Of course, you can see here she doesn't have the homework yet for Unit 1, but she does have the homework for Unit 2. So another thing that she includes with some of her units is a feature lesson. The feature lessons are designed a little different than her regular lessons, and there's more of a reading, a story, and conversation-based lessons. So this one I'm actually doing with a student right now is about costumes. So I'm going to open this one. And this one actually has 3 separate little stories. So in this feature lesson, it still has some review. It still has vocabulary because they're learning about costumes and a mask. And they still practice and there's still a verb. And then it goes straight into the reading. Each reading also has some extra vocabulary that relates just to that individual story. So this one's about Halloween. So they have 3 words that we just briefly go over here. And then they read a story about Halloween. And then the second story, there's some speaking practice for that. And then the second story has some pre-reading, Chinese New Year. So remember, the focus of this is costumes. So as we're reading, we're talking about the costumes that are used during these holidays. Some speaking practice, and then the last story is about the Venice Carnival. So you might be thinking, that is a lot of reading to do. And you're right, there is a lot of reading in this. But one thing to keep in mind about being a private tutor is you have the flexibility to organize, design the lesson the way you want to use it. So with those big companies that we used to work for, we had that pressure of getting everything done in 25 minutes so we can get to our next class. And if we did not cover something, we were out of luck because the student was going to the next lesson in their next class. There was no going back and finishing what you did not get to. But with private tutoring, you have that flexibility to do a full lesson in one lesson or to split it into 2 or even 3. What I personally do is I let the student guide the lesson. So even though I'm going through the content, if the student asks me extra questions, we talk about it. If I have extra extension videos or questions that I ask the student, we take the time to answer those. There is no rush. So with that feature lesson, I think I'm on the 2nd or 3rd class with that student. So we're really stretching that out and extending and taking the time to really discuss what we are learning because you have that flexibility. And then for our next class, I can just find the page we left off on and then we can continue the lesson. So I love the flexibility of being an independent teacher. With most of Learnaling lessons, I'm able to get 1 and a half to 2 lessons out of. I use other supplementary resources like Reading A to Z. I also use some review games on WordWall. So you have that flexibility to do what you think is best for your student with the curriculum that you have. So I love it. I highly recommend if you are looking for a curriculum, you're just starting out, or you're looking for a new curriculum, take the time to get that 1 month free trial and look through the lessons that are available, test them out with your students, and see how you like it. I love it. I highly recommend it, but I hope you can take the time to see if it works for you. If you have any questions about the curriculum, because I'm sure I missed something, you can always ask me. And of course, if you join the Learnaling Facebook page, you are more than welcome to ask questions there. Jenny is excellent at answering questions. Remember, she's in a different time zone, so she might not answer it right away, but she is more than willing to answer any questions that you have about her curriculum. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if there's anything else that you would like me to show, and goodbye, everyone.